The Whispering Mountain by Joan Aiken, Chapter 4. Erebus was sitting in an oak tree, munching a piece of oat bread, and waiting for the sun to rise. She had come out in search of medicinal ferns, which she liked to pick, with the dew on them, but it was still a little too dark to tell one plant from another, and so she leaned back contentedly, cradled on a fork of the tree, and listened to the voice of Fig Hat Ben, the Whispering Mountain. Up here the whisper was clearly audible, a sort of sighing murmur, like that of a sleeper disturbed by dreams. The tree in which Erebus sat grew on the side of a quarry, situated above the little town of Nant-Agardot, where the road came to an end, and the sides of the gorge drew together to meet in a semicircle of rugged cliff. Long ago, before the town grew up, the road through the gorge led only to this quarry, where men had once mined for gold, until the day came when the last sparkle of gold had been scraped from the mountain's veins. The sloping cliffs, now all green over with a tangle of trees and bushes, were pocked with little eye-shaped mine entrances. Some of these openings were screened by ferns and briars. Cascades of reddish water poured from others. One of the biggest openings was halfway up the cliff, right under the gnarled roots of the oak into which Erebus had climbed. Ferns half concealed the cave and had taken root. Also in the tree's mossy bank, sprouting on the trunk and branches like a green mane, Erebus established herself in a sort of nest, almost hidden among the feathery thickness. Presently, she was surprised by the sound of voices approaching, lifted in a rude chant. The harp that once in terror's pod, yo-ho, and a bottle of perry, did hang is now upon the god. Hey diddle-diddle, and derry down derry. In the dim, pre-dawn twilight, Erebus could just see two men lurching clumsily up the steep slope. "Watch it bilk, you silly cullion! Don't raise such a garboil, or we'll have half the mace-mongers of the town on our tail." "Garboil, I like that. You're the one as is making the most of the woobub. If you hadn't swigged so much tickle-brain down there at the Boar's Head, we'd have been here long since. Look at the sky. It'll be lightmans in 20 minutes. Anyone might twig us. Tush, hit, who's abroad? All snug in their libbages anyways. Here we be. Let's stow the bandor under this big rough tree. Nobody'll come prying here away." "I'm willing," said the other man. "Pooping it plenty deep, so no one'll lay their glazers on it." There was a grunting, rustling, and shuffling in the ferns directly underneath Erebus. She longed to see what was going on, but did not dare move in case they heard her. Plainly they were up to no good. "All rug," said one of the voices at length. "I reckon she could lay there till Doomy's day. No one would twig. Back to the bowsing ken, eh? Us could do with a dram of hot stingo. You go on then, cully, and lay on a dram for me. I'm a-going to give my napper a rinsing in yonder freshet." "Tol all, I'll meet you at the bowsing ken then." The two men fumbled their way down again. Erebus heard them slipping and cursing among the rocks and brambles. Though dying of curiosity, she judged it prudent not to move from her hiding place until they were some distance off. And it was a good thing she waited, for after 5 minutes she heard one of the men returning, much more quietly, though he panted a good deal and sometimes let out a bad word. "Where the deuce is the mitching thing, then?" she heard him mutter. "I made sure we laid it hereabouts. Aha! There she be. Now let's fool old Bilk. Let's lay her in another of these here voltages. Down there along." Erebus, craning out warily from her nest of fern, saw him withdraw a large sacking-wrapped bundle from the cave mouth underneath and transfer it to another hole in the cliff some 20 yards distant. In the still morning air she distinctly heard him chuckle to himself as he returned through the bushes. "Oh, won't old Bilko be set back in his pantofles when he finds the bandor's not there any more? Ho, ho, I can't wait to see his nab." He disappeared in the direction of the town. 5 minutes went by, and still Erebus, with her habitual caution, remained crouched in the fern. Then a dark figure rose up from behind a curtain of ivy on her left and made its way toward the bundle's new resting place. "Thought you'd diddle me, eh, Prigman? My sprag young co. Think yourself tricksy as a weasel, eh? But old Bilk knows a prank with two of that. Just you wait, my woodcock. He withdrew the bundle once more and moved it to yet another cave mouth. Erebus heard him grunt to himself. You lay there, my pretty, and old Bilk'll be back for you a poor turpentine Sunday. Then us'll turn you over to the highest bidder, and then it'll be velvet gaskins and satin galley slops for Sir Toby Bilk. Ah, and a cloth of gold waistcoat, and frumity every night. Chuckling deeply, he too made off in the direction of the town. Well, Erebus said to herself, there goes a fine pair of rapscallions, each one cheating the other. But I'd dearly like to know what this treasure is they've been so careful to hide away. The sky was now quite light. Indeed, the first rays of the sun were beginning to gild the tops of the distant black mountains, though the gorge of Nantagardau still lay in shadow under the great peak of Fig Hat Ben. Looking down toward the little grey stone town, Erebus could see a few threads of smoke beginning to trail upwards from the chimneys. Between her and the houses stretched the flat quarry floor, now overgrown with a thick carpet of moss and lichen. Here the gypsies and fair people had pitched their tents and halted their gaily colored caravans. But as near to the town, and as far from the quarry face as possible, for there was a general belief that the caves and cliffs hereabouts were haunted by little black, furry, elvish people who came out at night, and who had a thieving and malicious disposition. It was said that strange lights shone at midnight in the caves, that weird wailing sounds could sometimes be heard. Anybody who saw the lights or heard the sounds was supposed to be in danger of becoming deaf and blind. These beings were referred to politely as the Twyleth Teg, the fair people. But some townfolk asserted that the name should really be Fur People, or Furniskies, and many believed that they were the black imps of old Boggy Boo himself. Erebus, however, did not worry about such tales. She had never met anybody who could truly say that they had seen the little people, nor had she herself, but if she did, she felt sure that she would not fear them. Having now made sure that both men had really gone, she slipped down from her oak tree and gathered an apron full of ferns. Then, stooping to pick more as she went, taking care not to let her course appear too particular, she began to move toward the spot where Bilk had finally stowed the mysterious bundle. Much to her annoyance, just as she judged she must have reached the point where Bilk had been standing when he made his remark about a gold waistcoat and frumity, she heard a loud hail from below her on the floor of the quarry. "Aha there! Good morning to you, my dear young person, maiden, female. Can you inform me, I pray, whether the caravan containing the famous Devil's Leap is in this region, area, location, vicinity?" This new voice, deep and fruity, was certainly neither of the two she had heard before. Looking down the bushy slope, Erebus perceived a strange figure, a tall, fat man, rather dark-skinned, and most oddly dressed in tight-fitting pantaloons and a sort of tunic, over which he wore a dazzling striped satin sash and a fur coat. He had a fur cap on his head and a pair of mustachios which curved upward like terriers' tails. Fixing his large, earnest brown eyes on Erebus, he scrambled up toward her, puffing heavily. "Can you give me this information, my esteemed young damsel? I shall be most greatly obliged." "The Devil's Leap cave is nowhere near here, sir, indeed," Erebus said quickly. "Down in the middle of the town you will find the way to it, right by the town hall, if you do know where that is." "I remember. Yes, I bear in mind. A large, most hideous building, the color of a camel's liver, is it not?" Erebus gave him directions how to find it, but he did not seem to be paying very close attention. All the while she spoke, his eyes were roaming up and down the side of the quarry. "These holes, now, these gaps, these apertures, the ancient gold mines, yes? There is no gold mining now, I believe?" "No, sir, not for many a year," Erebus replied, wishing he would go away. At this moment the sun popped into view over a shoulder of the mountain, making all the dewdrops in the ferny quarry sparkle like diamonds. Immediately the stranger flung back his head and let out an amazingly piercing yell. "I walla walla willa, I walla woo!" until the echoes dashing across the quarry and bumping into each other sounded like the shouts of an advancing army. Birds flew squawking into the bushes. Heads were poked in sleepy, startled inquiry from caravans and tents. "A religious observance, my dear young lady," the stranger explained, urbanely, panting a little. Erebus, seeing that for the moment she had lost her chance of investigating the men's bundle, tried to memorize the spot where she stood and began to move casually downhill. The stranger accompanied her, making polite remarks about the beauty of the countryside, all the while keeping up a sharp scrutiny of their surroundings and of Erebus herself. "Are you a native resident, denizen of this charming spot, my dear person?" he was inquiring, when there came another interruption. A large black and white bird, which had been hovering in an undecided way high above